Okay, guys, our session was finished before, so let me share my screen with you and we will continue our topic. Yes, guys, you are asking me about the supervision. Okay, for any group of members, for any team who is working on the workplace, there is one person was appointed as their in charge. He is the one who is having experience, or we can say he is competent for that job. He know that how to perform that job and how to save the employees from the hazard, or what are the hazards involved in that specific task. That one is known as supervisor, or the foreman, or the site supervisor, or whatever the name is given, but that is known as supervision. Supervision means that keeping or monitoring the employees during their operation, so that we can ensure that they are doing the work in safe manners. That is known as supervision. So supervision is a type of administrative control, like by providing competent person on a team or on laborers or on the workers to ensure that they are working as per the safety standards, and they are using all safety protocols. They are keep wearing all type of safety personal protective equipment to keep themselves from any possible hazard on the workplace. Yes, Asad.
सर ये सुपरविजन का ही बस वो पूछना है सर, वो नेट एकदम बंद हो गया था तो इस वजह
Yeah,
से मैंने
that
कहा
that
थोड़ा
time that time the session was expired actually. Then we wait you to join. We start the meeting again. So this is a supervision only, and this is our administrative control. The safety signs are included in administrative control, like no unauthorized entry means this area is has and hazardous material is saved, lifting operation going on, no unauthorized entry. This is sign showing that prohibition. This is prohibition signage. This is warning sign, toxic chemicals are stored. This is the sign of PPEs, that mandatory PPEs. Safety boots must be worn while you enter in this area. Safety condition, emergency escape route. In case of emergency, we need to see this sign where the arrow is going. We need to run in that area. Firefighting or fire extinguishing equipments are stored here, are available here. This is sign showing the availability of the fire extinguishing materials. Just a moment, guys. Okay, guys. So here we have risk assessment, PP, our last element of hierarchy of control. Personal protective equipments or clothing that is worn or held by a worker that protect them from one or more risk to their safety or health. There are instances where none of the above control measures can be used. Like sometimes if we cannot eliminate the risk, if we don't have any choice to provide the substitute, if the if even after using the administrative controls, we still have some type of risk or some level of risk on the workplace, then PPEs, the personal protective equipments, are the item or are the things which can save the employee from that hazard, like air defenders, earplugs from noise, gloves to prevent the injury on the hands, to get in touch with hot surface or some other issues which can affect the skin of the hands, and then respiratory protection, the breathing apparatus to be used to avoid and to inhale any hazardous gases, eye protection, eyeglasses can be used to avoid the dust particles to go into in the eyes, and other hazards which can affect the eyes of the employees at the workplace, like spray in the painting activity. There is a chance that during the spraying work the particles can flow into eyes of the employees, but if they are using breathing apparatus, they can save their breaths, they can save their lungs. If they are using face mask, if they are covering their head with the helmets, with the safety hat, it can save their head. If they're using eye protection, nothing will go inside the eyes, the eyeglasses. They will keep their eyes safe. This is the example and use of PPEs. So here is the topic focus under the GBU, personal protective equipment worker regulation. Yeah, guys, there is the regulations in every country. Just go through under this one, and in which country you are working, you need to be familiar with their local authorities. But mostly when we are buying or purchasing the PPEs, we are following the British standards. Every PPE has its own specific standard, which showing that this is as per required standard. Like this item is manufactured as per required standard. So these are some, here is example of personal protective equipment at work regulation 1992. It gives the complete details of the PPE, how to use, when to damage, how to store. All these informations are given, and most of the countries, it is the requirement of it's the requirement that employer will provide the personal protective equipment to the employees, and employees, they have responsibility to utilize all and to store all PPEs as required by the manufacturer or as instructed to them by their management or the safety team. So the benefits of using PPEs, it can be used as an interim control. It is an interim control while more expensive or difficult controls are put in place. When we already have other controls, then additionally we are using PPEs, it will save us. In some situations, it may be the only control. Yeah, if the other control fails, then the PPE is the only source of protection. It may be needed as a backup for emergencies when other controls have failed the same. It's usually cheap. Yeah, they are cheap. They are not much expensive. It gives immediate protection. Yeah, they give. But here the limitations, or you can say the demerits, it only protect one person, only protect one person who is wearing. For sure, if I am wearing a eye protection, my eyes can be saved, but it cannot give a protection to the others. Like it's a control to implemented on individuals. It may not protect adequately if it's not fit. Yeah, maybe the equipment which is given to you, maybe it's not fit, the helmet size or the eye protection, or maybe you are using some other eyesight glasses, then it can create. And the same happening maybe in the breathing apparatus, maybe it is misfit, or or the material is not good, maybe it can create an additional hazard. And the other thing that people don't like to wear PPEs, they are keeping it as a burden on their body. That's why they are not. That is a limitation. If it fails to danger, the worker is exposed to risk. Yeah, if the breathing apparatus, suppose an employee is entering into the breathing apparatus and the system failed, the breathing apparatus failed to perform the job, then maybe he is more exposed to hazardous gases. This is an example of the limitations which we have in the PPEs. Why a hierarchy? Okay, the control options explained above are set out as a hierarchy of control: elimination of the hazard, substitution, administration, engineering controls, and the PPEs. That is an hierarchy of control, which is why we need, because we need to ensure most effective method of saving the workplace from any risk, from any accident. So that's why in the hierarchy, elimination coming on the first. So if we eliminate the risk at all, if we finish the risk from the root, it means that we are more sure that we save our workplace. And then substitution is the second one. If we provide a substitute, it also gives us a confidence, a good level of confidence that we save our employees or save our the workplace. And then the engineering control, while using the mechanical aids, in that control, the human efforts are reduced and humans are less exposed to risk. Only the machines are exposed to the risk, or the machines are the one who are performing the task. This also gives us good confidence or more confidence to save the employees. And then the administrative controls, this is also effective, but not as much for the above. So the PPE is the last resort of protection that we already discussed. That's why we are using the hierarchy of control. So if and in any exam, or if in any scenario, you are advised to write down the the control measures or the hierarchy of control, you need to follow the same from elimination to PPE. You need to keep it in your mind that the most effective method should be used on the first. So we are talking about risk assessment, and then hierarchy came. In the risk assessment, step 4 is recording significant finding. We need to record the and we need to identify of the activity area, which area, what is the activity. We need to write it down, and then we need to write that who are the people, the group of the people at the risk. Then we need to evaluate the risk, what is the likelihood and consequences, and then we need to suggest or give the control measures which we need to have on the workplace, and then we need to write down the date and time of risk assessment and who did the risk assessment, one person or individual or a team. We need to write that, and then we need to write the review date. And what is review and update? A risk assessment must be reviewed and amended as necessary if there is reason to suspect that it is no longer valid, or if there has been a significant changes. As we discussed, if there is a change in process, change in legislation, any a major accident happening on the site, changing in the manpower, changing in the technology, like new technology and equipments being brought out on the site, then the hazards will be different. So it need to be reviewed and updated accordingly. So significant changes, what are the significant changes? Change in process, change in substance means materials, equipments, workplace, personals, legal standards. So these is the reason to suspect that assessment is not valid if more accidents happening on the site, or even one accident happened on the site which is not covered in the risk assessment, or that was not identified in the risk assessment. If there is a near miss, more near misses happening on the site, we need to review the risk assessment. If the ill health to the employees is causing more, we need to we need to review and update the risk assessment. Special case and vulnerable workers. Special cases mean the young workers, young persons, the pregnant ladies, people with special care like disabled, people who have some other health issues, serious health issues, or who depend on the others. They are known as special case or the vulnerables. So young persons, why we need to take care of them more? Yes, Nasser, please.
Sir, I'm asking what is different between health and near miss accident. You can check this one. Ill health and near miss accident.
Okay.
What is different with?
Yeah, I can explain to you. Near miss is something who have potential to cause harm, but it didn't harm. Like a material fall down from the 5th floor, but just fall down near to an employee, like a rebar, a steel, or a stone fall down. If it fall down on the head of the employee, if it hit a worker, it may cause fatality, right? But it didn't did that. It didn't hit the employee. It just fall down near to that employee, means there is no loss, but that event have a potential to cause harm. That is a near miss. And ill health means any health effect on the employees because of their work routine, because of their work, because of their workplace. As we give example of ammonia gas, the people are working in the printing section or in the printing departments, they are inhaling ammonia gas because there is a frequent use of ammonia in the printing, for example. Okay, so when that effects came to their body, their breathing, their skin problems, their eye irritation, that is known as ill health.
Okay, sir. Thank
you. Welcome. So why we need, here we have special case. In the while developing a risk assessment, we need to consider the special cases, the vulnerable workers. So here we have young persons. Why we need? Because they have less experience. They are not mature. Physically, they are not enough strong. Their perception about risk is less, poor perception. Heavily influenced by peer group. Yeah, if a person who is working 10 years in the same workplace and a new joining, he came, and if the experienced person tell him that no need to wear the PP, he will not wear because he came under influence of the peer group. Okay, eager to show a willingness to work. Yeah, maybe they are overconfident. They can show they are eager. They are more happy that yeah, I can do that job without any PP. I have more power in my body. In such cases, we need to keep them. We need to give them special care. We need to consider them while developing the risk assessment, less developed communication skills. Yeah, they don't have adequate communication skills. Maybe they are shy, maybe they are afraid to report any incident. So we need to take them already for the risk assessment process. So for these reasons, you often need to think more carefully about the work that a young person is doing. It may be necessary to carry out risk assessment specifically with young persons in mind. We need to keep them in mind. Prohibit a young person from carrying out a certain high risk activities. Yeah, we can avoid them. We can give instructions that the new people, they are not allowed to do such jobs which are involved in the more risk. Restrict their work pattern, like instead of night shift, give them day shift where there is more supervision and more clear view. Do not allow them to work overtime because they will get tired. They are new, they are young, less experienced, they get tired, and maybe they can lead to a negative activity on the site, or maybe they can get injured on the workplace because they are tired and they are not feeling well on the workplace. Provide specific health surveillance. Yeah, they need to be having a health surveillance. Their health issues need to be monitored or need to be checked by the doctor or by the physician regularly, so that can be countered, and if required, the administration control, the like change of duty, routine pattern, more work break or more supervision, more training can be provided. New and expectant mothers. Guys, this is a very common thing which we are facing on our workplace. We are working in any way, there's involvement of females, and of course, as a natural procedures, if they are expecting, if they are going to give birth to a baby, they need special care. They need special seating arrangement. They need special eating arrangements. They need special evacuation arrangement as well in case of a fire or an emergency in a building. They are not in a condition to run away quickly, so we need to carry out all these things during developing a risk assessment. Suppose they are having a baby, so this is a condition which we need to take in account while developing the risk assessment. So disabled workers, the paralyzed people, the people who got fracture or who lost their legs, who lost their eyes, who lost their ears in any type of accident, they need to be given special care, because maybe the fire alarm ringing, but a person who is disabled to hear it, we need to carry out risk assessment in such a way that if such thing happen and we have a person who don't have the ability to hear, then who will evacuate him? Like these things need to be identify. Like we need to identify which type of disabled workers we have on the workplace, what type of emergency we are expecting or we can face in the workplace, and then who is going to rescue them. So guys, this is element 3 in our book, so keep it in mind. This is very important. That's why I use the book instead of the PowerPoint slide, because here we can cover almost all the topics. The lone workers also need special care if there is only one person and he don't know what is happening around. If he is working in a remote areas, for example, the security guards in the parking areas, in big parking areas, or one person working in a desert, he needs special care. We need to ensure that he must have adequate and appropriate communication system, like a walkie-talkie, a radio, or a telephone. In some cases, telephones are not working. There is no adequate signal, not enough signals for the mobiles. Then we need to ensure that they must have a type of alert system, so that they can get alert and they can save themselves if they can evacuate the area. This is known as a lone worker. Lone working is also a critical activity, especially in the night and in the remote areas. They need to be special care while developing a risk assessment. Here we have study questions. You guys just go through with this one. This is how to use PPE, all this, and the management of change. In this section, we will study the impact of change. Workplace experience changes routinely. Changes may be due to construction work, like one activity finished or the other started. Changes may be due to the change of equipment or change of working practices. Like before, we are using small baby rollers to compact the area at the workplace. But meanwhile, the organization brings the heavy compactor, the heavy road rollers, and then there is a big change. So the impact of the big roller is maybe 10 times or 20 times more than the small baby roller. Then we need to review it. We need to understand that how to handle this impact. This impact need to be included in the risk assessment. Just a moment. So the emergency procedures, like if something go wrong, if an accident happen, if an emergency happening on the workplace, how to handle it, that is known as emergency procedures. These procedures can be developed for all activities separately, like for lifting operation, for confined space operation, for excavation operation, for painting work, or for any type of work, we can develop emergency procedure. There is an specific emergency procedure which is developed, which is being developed on the workplace, on the projects. That's a generic one, but for task specific, we can develop also to handle in case of any emergency, like to whom we have to contact in case of emergency, to whom we have to report, where we have to go. That's known as assembly point. Like, is the assembly point available in that area? Suppose there is a fire happening in the workplace, then employees need to run to a specific area where all of them can be counted, where the roll call can be done to ensure that employees are all the peoples are present at the assembly point. No one is under the dangerous area, or no one is in the fire area. That is an emergency procedure. And regarding the welfare provisions, the basic facilities, drinking water, changing room, cross changing room, storage of clothing, sanitary conveniences like washrooms, toiletries, and then we have washing facilities, hand washing facilities for the Muslim ablution areas, okay, and rest and eating facilities where the employees can take rest during their work break, where they can eat. Appropriate dining area need to be there. These are the welfare provisions which need to be there at the workplace. Here we have safe system of work. Safe system of work we already have discussed earlier. Let's introduce it again with us. Let's review it. A safe system of work is a formal procedure based on a systematic examination of work in order to identify the hazards. It defines safe methods of working that eliminate those hazards or minimize the risk associated with them. We can identify three key elements from the definition of safe system of work. The SSW is formal document. It means it must be a written document, or recorded in an appropriate manner in an appropriate structure. It results from a systematic examination, means we need to examine the workplace, we need to identify the hazard, and then we can suggest the control measures, and we can develop the risk assessment. And it defines a safe method. It also gives an idea about, we can say it give idea about step-by-step procedure, how to perform the job. What is the safe method or safe procedure to perform the job? That is simply a safe system of work. So workers involvement, written procedure. Worker involvement means we involve the workers during the risk assessment, during identifying the risk, during inspection the workplace, like what problems they are facing in the workplace. Technical and procedural behavior controls, this we already discussed. The behaviors, developing a safe system of work. How we develop? We need to analyze the, we need to ensure the task analysis, SREDIM. Select the task, record the step or the stages, like how many stages or steps are involved, and then develop a safe working, evaluate the risk associated with every step, and then develop the safe working method, then implement, then monitor and review the effectiveness of this one. Okay, so for example, a vehicle breakdown and recovery company might perform task analysis to the job of changing the wheel on a customer's car. So what steps to be included here during the task analysis? Step 1, park breakdown wheel, park the car, okay, remove the faulty wheel, the wheel which is damaged or faulty or punctured, remove it. Step 3, fit spare wheel, install or put the spare wheel, and then leave the car as it is on his condition, so that the employer or the customer he can take. Okay, the risk assessment, these are the 4 steps which are, we can say just as example. So the risk associated with each step of these steps would then be evaluated. For example, at step 2, one of the risk identified might the movement of customer's car after it has been raised up. Yeah, once they put the jack under the car, maybe there is a movement, maybe the jack failed, maybe the hydraulic failed and car move, or maybe car fall down on the employees. It can damage his hand, his foot, or any body part if it fall down. So this is the procedure which we need to develop, or which we need to understand during the task analysis. Like, this is the task and these are the hazard associated with this task. Okay, then instructions and trainings. What is instruction and trainings? This is the instructions given by the seniors, given by the supervisor or by the safety team, and training given to the employees relating to their work, relating to their workplace, relating to the work environment, relating to the health and safety standards, relating to the emergency procedures, each and every type of training which is given on the workplace, so that employees can save themselves and they feel themselves in a better environment. Okay, here is the monitoring. Monitoring is the last step of task analysis. The monitoring is a supervision and review or monitoring by a competent person who is available on the workplace. The last step of the task analysis process is monitoring. Once the safe working method has been put into place, it should be checked periodically. This is to ensure that how they have to monitor. They need to check the accident rates. They need to check the effectiveness. The new safe working method is being correctly followed and applied. Like, what the procedure has been developed, is it applied and followed up properly, or are the employees are working as per the safe procedure? The new method is in fact safe. If it's not, then it will be reviewed. Yeah, it's the same as we discuss in all the steps of our management system. If the target or the goals are not being achieved, we need to review and update it accordingly. Okay, here we have study system. Here we have permit to work system. Permit to work is a very important document. This is a type of communication between all the departments, and this is issued to ensure that the health and safety standards are being followed. Permit to work system from part of safe system of work to control high risk activities or high risk work at the site, such as hot work. A permit system formalizes the control of high risk work to ensure that all the risks have been identified and all the precautions have been put in place, that appropriate information has been communicated to all relevant parties. A permit to work is usually 4 sections. Okay, the issues: who is issuing the permit, who is receiving the permit, then clearance, then cancellation. These are the 4 sections of the permit to work. So permit to work system rely on the use of paper permits, but ultimately they only control risk properly when correctly used. Yeah, permit to work can control the risk if they are used properly, because it's a piece of paper and it become a legal document when it's signed by the issuer and it's signed by the job performer, it's signed by the receiver. It becomes a legal document and everyone have to follow. So in each permit, there is a special requirements, like these items need to be, or these control measures need to be in place on the work, then you can proceed the work. So by signing the permit receiver is confirming that yes, these control measures are in place and we make the workplace safe as much as they can, and then they can proceed to the work. A permit to work system is a formal document safety procedure forming part of a safe system of work, which ensure that all necessary actions are taken before, during, and after particularly high risk jobs. The high risk nature of the work is the key feature that these types, and also just a moment, the high risk nature of the work is the key feature that these types of work have in common, which make them subject to permit to control. Like some activities which need that they must be permitted to control before starting. For example, lifting work, confined space work, excavation work, where people are exposed to high risk. People are exposed to risk more than, like if you can say hot work, It's very critical. There is a welding, it can cause fire, it can cause blast. So this activity should be permitted by permit and should be controlled by the permit. Yes, Nasser, your question, please.
Sir, I'm asking this about work permit. We are making daily work permit base or weekly, like hot work permit. We need to cutting hot work permit. So we make a daily basis or with weekly or monthly, because monthly is not important. Weekly or daily basis.
Yeah,
So I'm
monthly,
asking about
yes, monthly is not applicable. So usually this is defined by the organizations in their OHS manual. Here in UAE, we are issuing the excavation permit weekly basis also. But in some organizations,
permit issuer or permit receiver need also training or no need? It's
yes.
okay. It's a site engineer. It's no need to training, but is signing. Or it's okay. Yes, I'm a permit issuer or I'm permit receiver. I sign. Is work is continue. No problem.
Nasser,
Is important or not?
It's important. They need to be competent. They must have training. Like if a site engineer or a permit receiver, he don't know what is going on or what are the hazards involved, right? Then how he can ensure, the safety of the employees? For sure, they need the training about the permit. Everyone who is involved in the permit, he must be trained, he must be competent, he must have knowledge about the task, about the activity, and he must have experience, and he must knowing that what are the hazards and what are the control measures. So if he don't know the control measures, he cannot apply the, if he don't know the hazards, he cannot apply the control measures, right? So typically the permits are issued for hot work, for lifting work, for confined space work, and where if there is a, here we have some example. Typically precaution of control, if there is a hot work, what are the precautions we need to take? This is not full, but some example, like flammable materials need to be away, need to be removed from the area. From the area where the hot work is going on, because in hot work maybe there is a sparking, where there is the production of heat, and items that cannot be removed are covered with fire retardant or fire resistant blankets. If we cannot remove the items, maybe they are the fixed stuff there, then we need to cover with the fire blanket. Floor is swept clean, the floor must be clean, so there is no combustible and flammable material. Wooden floor is dumped down. If we are working on a wooden floor where there is a wood is a combustible material and can catch fire, so it need to be treated properly. Work on electrical system, machinery maintenance. If we are doing machinery, we are also using the log out tag out system, we are using the confined space and activity, we have work at height, then we need to ensure that required items or the required conditions of the permit are fulfilled during once we issue the permit. So here we have study question: what is the permit to work? It's a formal and written procedure of performing a high risk activity. What are the key features? What are the key four key sections of a typical permit issue? Receiver. Two others you guys need to tell me. You can send me in WhatsApp or you just read it. Don't send me even, just read it so that you have idea about this one. So emergency.
Sir, work at height start. Sorry for that, sir. Sorry for that, sir. Work at height start. Height it's mean 5 meter. After we need to work permit or 10 meter after.
No. It's not like 5 meters. You know, after 1.2 meters, it's considered as work at height, right?
1.2 meters.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sometime that is especially 1.2 meter for excavation purpose and 1.6 for working at height.
Yes.
Am I right, sir?
Yes, you are right.
Okay, sir. Please carry.
Anything, but let me add one more thing here. Anything where you need a platform or where you need a ladder to reach, that will be considered as work at height.
Right, sir.
Any workplace, you are right. it's valid point. And any area of work where you need some arrangement, where you need ladder or some working platform or scaffolding or something, it will be considered as work at height. Emergency procedures, we already discussed the need of emergency procedure. Why we already discussed about this emergency procedure arrangements. How to raise alarm, who will call the emergency, who will check the fire, who will ensure the area.
Sir, I have a question, please, sir.
Yes, yes, please.
Sir, in case of electric shock,
Yes.
in case of, then at first as a first aider,
Yeah.
what is immediate precaution to with that affected person?
If there is
That is generally we use in our
yes,
field
yes.
area.
If it's a competent person or a competent first aider, there the first of all they need to shut down the electricity so that the person get free from the electric, and they need to immediately ensure that all electric systems